Hi, teammates. My name is, as usual, Sean J. McCaw, and I am your host of the Eurostep here on Instagram Live. And we're going to have a good show tonight, taking you behind the scenes of European basketball, as usual. Tonight will be more influenced by German basketball because I have a really important guest, really good guest on that'll share some hopefully some nice stories. And before we begin, before I get my guest in, please take note at the bottom. You can down there. You can write in the comment section or in the question mark with the speech bubble. You can write a question in there while the show is going on, and I will try to infuse it into the program. I'll try to get your questions asked. Just throw it out there, and then I'll try to get them in at some point. Yeah, so let's get started. My guest for tonight is actually the first journalist that I've had here on the show. But I'm pleased to announce Daniel George, who works as a sports reporter for MDR, which means Mitteldeutsche Rundfunk. That's a German news agency, and he's a sports reporter. He does all different kinds of sports, not just basketball, but he also does some freelance stuff, writing for some of the bigger basketball magazines here in Germany. And I'm really excited to have him on and hear his thoughts about Germany over the last few years and some other perspectives about basketball. So now I will get him in. English is ready. Daniel? There he is. Daniel, how you doing, man?
Hey Sean, how are you?
Good. So
Yeah,
you're
I
you're
practiced
you're,
some
you're
vocabulary the last weeks and
oh,
months, so I'm ready.
good, good. So for everybody, we booked this episode a couple of months ago, and Daniel was like, I don't know. I really wanted to have him on the show, and he's like, I don't know about my English, but he said he was going to work on it, so I'm sure everything's going to be good.
Yeah, people can help me in the comments if I need some words.
Don't correct his mistakes in the comments, people. We don't want to scare him away. So yeah, thanks for coming on tonight, Daniel. I really appreciate it, taking some time out of your day or your evening now and talking to the good people out here. As usual, I tell everybody at the beginning how we met, and it's pretty much about a year now that I came across what you were doing with that first Regio team, the documentary you did with the first Regio. Was it first Regio or second Regio?
First word.
The
Mm,
First Radio.
yeah.
And for those of you that don't know, First Radio out here is about the uh, fifth league,
Fourth highest league.
fourth
Yeah,
fourth
fourth.
league
Yeah.
out here in Germany. And Daniel did a really nice piece on this small town and what it meant to them, the whole basketball culture. And I thought that was really cool. And that's how I started following him. And yeah, that's almost about a year ago, right? That you did that.
Yeah, a little bit more than a year. Yeah, one and a
Yeah,
half year. Hmm.
yeah. And yeah, so we will get started. This is how the interview will go. We'll talk about basketball as usual. Um, just talk, man. Don't worry about your grammar. Don't worry about making mistakes. Just think of it as a chill setup between two guys talking basketball. So
Yeah, but I read that you're a teacher, so you need to correct me if I'm wrong. So
yeah, man, but I like to make my guests feel comfortable. So just just talk your head off and don't worry about any mistakes. And maybe I'll do some editing, some slick editing before I upload it on YouTube.
all right.
And
Yeah.
but I'm sure you'll be fine. I'm sure you'll be fine. So let's get started. Of course, how did you start with basketball? Were you a basketball fanatic when you were young, and did you play it all?
Not at all. I mean, you need to define young. I mean, I celebrate my 30th birthday next week, and I still think that I'm young. But as far as being a child, I played handball before. I
Okay.
don't I don't even know if all the people in the States know what handball is because I think it's not
Yeah,
that
they do.
popular. Yeah,
Yeah, it's not popular at all.
not at all. But here, especially in Magdeburg, it's really popular,
Yeah.
and the team just won the championship in the first league. And this is like one of the biggest sports over here. So I started because I was really tall, and they said, okay, that's cool for handball as well. But then I started playing soccer because in Germany, like everybody plays soccer.
Right.
I was a big fan of Bayern Munich for like I don't know 4 or 5 years because they won everything, and I thought, man, that's great. They just celebrate championship after championship. That's nice. But actually, it's a funny story. I played soccer for 4 or 5 years, I
Yeah.
think from 10 to 14. And we played at a small field in the beginning, but then it was time to move to the bigger field. And I said, man, that is too exhausting. I'm going to stop playing soccer. And then I stopped. I didn't do any sports for 1 or 2 years, I guess. But then a teacher at my school had a really, really great passion for basketball, and he shared it with us students. So basically, me and all of my friends started playing basketball.
That's great.
And I started playing at the club he was playing some months later. And it's funny because I just met him some months ago, and we were both laughing about it because it's funny how life goes. If we wouldn't met, if he had a passion for, I don't know, let's say hockey, maybe I would have been a hockey journalist now. Because this one person kind of changed my life or put it in this basketball direction. Because I think otherwise I wouldn't have no touching point with basketball. And we wouldn't be talking today, I guess. So it's crazy how life goes.
It's crazy how one thing sets off everything else in motion, right?
Yeah. That's really crazy. Now, like 15 years later, and we're still in contact. He's still playing. I'm still playing sometimes. So it's really cool.
So what? You got started with journalism, sports journalism. What fascinates you? Let's talk specifically right now about basketball. What fascinates you as a journalist about basketball?
I don't know. I don't think there's something that fascinates me from the journalistic point of view. It's more like, so what I do, I tell stories. I'm not like a great tactics guy or something like that. I just tell stories about people and their challenges in their lives. So it can be funny, it can be dramatic, it can be sad, it can be cool. And I think I do this in basketball because we just speak the same language. So if I talk to a soccer player, it feels not the same. It's something different, you know, because like basketball is so much more than just throwing the ball into the basket for me. It's like, it's about culture, it's about values, it's about hip hop as well. So in Germany, if I meet somebody who has love for basketball, you feel this immediate bond, I guess, even if you don't know him. It's a little bit like I met you online, like this, and it was a great example for something like that. Yeah, so there's nothing from the journalistic point of view, but it's just like I like to tell stories about people who like basketball. Let's put it this way, maybe.
Yeah.
Because we share this love for the game. So,
and because soccer is such a dominant figure here in Germany, it's important that we have journalists that also show that other side to basketball, and not just the on the court stuff. But like I said before, like the documentary you did about the first Regio team, I thought was really good because it shows like every facet from like you said, like sadness, fear, excitement, and it shows like everything, and that's emotion, what basketball brings for me and for a lot of people. So I appreciate what you do, and showing another side to just not just the on the court stuff, but what goes on off the court too. I really appreciate that. So we need more people like you in the journalism branch to push.
But it's hard, you know, because it's hard to make a living from just being a basketball journalist in Germany.
Yeah.
I mean, I do other stuff as well. I don't post it on social media. That's like most of the things, or 90% is basketball. I post on Instagram or stuff like that. But that's just a small part of my job. You know, I'm doing social media management here at MDR, political stories about topics that concern the society. And it's really hard in Germany to make a living from just covering basketball. I don't know. There's one guy, Andre Vogt, Ray Vogt. Probably most of the people know him. He's the biggest journalist in Germany, but one of the only ones who can live just from basketball. And that's sad. So I hope that changes.
That's really sad, because me as a former player, you see the press table at the game. You see all these guys sitting back there. You go to the press conference. You see all these reporters there, and you're thinking, these guys are making a lot of money to talk to me after this game, right?
No way.
And it's not. It's not like that at all.
Oh, like so, I see Martin Funkel in the comments. Come on, big pays, big money from Big Magazine. He's my boss over there. Yeah, big pays, big money. That's true. But not like no. But like with soccer journalism, you can earn so much more money.
Right.
It's just
Right.
like being professional as well. You can earn like 10 times more money in soccer than in basketball.
Why do you think basketball has such a hard time to reach a broader audience and pull in more fans here in Germany? Of course, I think soccer will never be dethroned, but like you said, handball is probably bigger than basketball is. Um, all kind of skiing or winter events are probably bigger than basketball is. Although basketball has made enormous strides since I played even on TV all the time, things like that. But what do you think basketball has to do to kind of close the gap a little bit to soccer and other sports?
That's a great question. If I would have the answer, I would have a lot of money, I guess. I don't know, but it's a good question because you probably saw that the BBL just announced a new media deal like 2 weeks ago. The games will be shown on S Nation, a new streaming platform, and not at Deutsche Telekom anymore. And S Nation promised with their boss, who comes from soccer, to make basketball bigger in Germany, with the help of the Bild Zeitung, which has a big audience, but it's not like
It's not the most credible.
Yes, it doesn't stand for quality journalism. So there was a lot of critics about this deal, and but I'm curious to see if it was. They start next year, but I don't know. I think just success is one key, and maybe not from the national team because they had success in the past with Dirk Nowitzki, and but it didn't really help. So I guess the success of the German teams in the European competition will be key, and not just for 1 year, for many years to come.
Yeah, that's a good point because the national team has always done well, even back in the day and when they won the European Championship or things like that. The national team has always had pretty solid teams, but there's still never been that jump in maybe in people that play basketball has risen, but the audience and the now I have to say something in German because I can't think of the name in English. The Wahrnehmung from the audience outside of the core basketball players or people is relatively scarce, and it's sad because I think the BBL has put on a good show, a good quality, and player salaries are up, except after COVID hit. I think it's very professional. They set a goal to be one of the top teams or top leagues in Europe. I don't think it is like that, but it was a high goal, which I think raised the level for every team to get better in all aspects, even in the office, so those kind of things, and the gyms have gotten better. It's just a shame that it hasn't really jumped to the general public like other sports.
But that's a great question because I don't know. People are always saying we need to leave our basketball bubble in Germany. We need to get a bigger audience, and yeah. But I don't know. Do we really need to leave this bubble? Because actually, I like this bubble. Basketball
is.
Yeah, because basketball is something different than soccer. I mean, in soccer, do we have like, I don't know, 50,000 people in the arena, in the stadium, and maybe 5,000 of them are not so cool. And just as I said, like in this basketball bubble, in the small basketball world in Germany, you have a bond, and I think that's more important than maybe money as well, because it's always about the money. We say the teams need more money, the players want more money, of course. Right. But I mean, look at the soccer world. There's so much trouble. It's all about money. It's not about the sports anymore. No one can tell me that. So I think basketball is way more cool than soccer, and this also has to do with the small bubble. So I have no problem with the bubble being a little bit smaller. It could be a little bit bigger as well, but it doesn't need to be like soccer, because a lot of developments in soccer are really, really critical, I guess.
Speaking of developments, I would say in the last 10 years especially, Germany's put a lot of emphasis on developing young German talent. And I guess in order to go away from the dependence of foreign players. That's probably one reason, because foreign players are going to be more expensive than a domestic player. So I think that was a cost saving move for a lot of teams to go that route. But it's obvious that the move has paid off, because there's a lot of really quality German players, younger quality German players that are out there right now. I'll talk more about that in a minute. But how do you see that? How do you see, as a journalist, how the BBL has kind of really forced teams to put more effort into their youth players?
I think it's great because I got some German players I can talk German to and don't need to speak English all the time. No, just a joke. I think it's really great because German players are not just sitting on the bench anymore, like it was maybe back in your days. They were just there to fill up the bench, but they're really playing. Like if you see yesterday, Bonn against Bayern Munich, Leon Kratzer, I guess you know him pretty well. He's really playing a big role. On the other side at Bayern Munich, Andi Obst. He's from Sachsen-Anhalt, not my hometown, but state. 1 hour away from here. State, exactly. And so that's great to see them perform at the semifinals in the BBL this way. So I guess it's a great development. And the role model for every club should be, everybody knows already, but I guess Alba Berlin, what they did in the last 10, 20 years, starting really at bottom with 3, 4, 5-year-old kids in schools and stuff like that.
Yeah, they have a great program.
Yeah, and now it pays off even at EuroLeague level with German players, with great German players. But saying that, it's important to have players like that, like, I don't know, Justus Hollatz in Hamburg. Next year, he's playing in Spain. To have role models for the kids as well. But on the other side, I guess it's not so important where these role models come from. Because, I mean, if you look like at Oldenburg, Ricky Paulding, I guess like every kid who's playing in the youth teams of Oldenburg was to be like Ricky Paulding for many years, I guess. So it doesn't matter where he's from. And I think that's nice as well, because it really is like that. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter if you can play. So I think it's great that we have more German players. And German players nowadays really have a lot of opportunities to prove themselves. If you get the talent, if you work hard, you can really make it in the BBL. They got more trust from the clubs, from the managers, from the coaches. But on the other hand, we shouldn't just focus on the German players, I guess.
Well, I also coach youth players in Germany. And I think the move to focus more on the German players was definitely the right one, and I think it's paying off right now. Of course, it's also a thing about identification, and in my opinion, I don't think that the average basketball fan in Germany goes to the games to watch the Americans. Yeah, it's nice, everything, but they want to see their own. They want to see their own kind of people performing and doing well. Maybe not for everyone, but it's something that keeps them coming back to see their guys playing. What do you think?
I don't know. I think it's true in general, maybe, but you have some examples like Ricky Paulding, or I think about Sergio Carouche in Weißenfels, NBC.
Yeah.
He's playing there for 5 years, I guess, and now probably coming back maybe for the 6th season. And everybody's coming to see him play, and people are really sad if he sits on the bench. They scream his name, and they want to get the coach to get him in the game. And he's not German. He's American. Right. I mean, he's half German, basically, has a German passport. But actually, but he's American. But just his nature and his open-mindedness, and he's so sympathetic and so cool. And he just stayed loyal to the club, to Weißenfels. I guess that's more important than being German or being American or from East of Europe or something like that. So I guess this loyalty is maybe what it's all about, and what is missing in the basketball world. Because, teams change like from season to season.
But the teams changing so much, I think, has more to do with the payment structure, because basketball is not like Germany. Basketball is not like soccer here in Germany, where you get multi-year contracts. You know, if you're an established player, you're lucky to get a 1+1 deal, which means you fix for 1 year, and then usually the club has the option for the second. And if you're really established, if you get a 2+1, that's crazy, right? So,
Hmm.
but most of the players are on 1-year contracts, so it's hard for them to identify with a city or a team when they know, okay, I have to look for my next job. A guy playing at Bayern Munich soccer team, he's got 5-year contract. He can lay roots. He can really relax. He can go out in the city and get to know people on a different level. But a guy who's there for 1 year playing basketball probably doesn't have the same loyalties to the club that someone that has a 5-year contract has. And I think that's one of the things that probably needs to change in Europe in general, that you sign these players for longer than 1 year's contracts because, and for that reason, there's so much movement.
And that's true, and that's a topic again. Like, do we need to leave this bubble? Probably yes, to pay the players better that they stay at the clubs. Yeah. So
I don't even know if it's that you even have to pay the players a whole lot more, but I think the players, especially the foreign ones, I can speak as a foreign born player. Um, Sometimes they need that feeling um, that they are. I can't even think of the word now. I got too many things in German up here. That they're
valued,
valued,
probably.
that
Yeah.
they're valued more, by saying, okay, I especially if a guy played in the BBL for a couple of years already. What's wrong with you giving him a 2+1 contract? Because you've scouted him, you've played him a bunch of times. But if you bring a guy over from Alba Berlin and you bring him to your team and you give him a 1-year deal, he's not going to feel very valued. He's going to take the money, whatever, but he's always going to be thinking about the next move. And I think that's the one thing that needs to change in our game in general in Europe, not just Germany, but in general in Europe. Uh, let's go back to I want to talk about a little about the younger players. So I was fortunate enough to coach some pretty good guys in my time in Germany. And I coached Leon Kratzer. We talked about him. I coached him when he was in Bayreuth. I mean, I was his coach before he could dunk. I would make him stay after practice, and he's going to be really mad that I'm telling this story, but I used to make him stay after practice and try to dunk, right? So I was also fortunate enough to coach Lucas Meisner here in Bayreuth and Robin Mays here in Bayreuth. So I knew what they could do if given the right situation. Um, was there any other German players? Andi Obst is another example. I've got a story about Andy in a minute when I get to him. But are there any other players that maybe were under the radar? I'm talking German players that were under the radar for you as a journalist? Probably not, but
Probably not really, because they start to get attention pretty early, I think. Um, but some of the Alba Berlin players, like Malte Delo, Jonas Matisek,
right.
or players like that, they didn't came out of nowhere, but like there were
They
so
weren't
many.
hyped.
Yes, exactly. They weren't hyped. They were just, it was just normal that they were at the first team someday, and were playing as well under Coach Aito. I guess that maybe was kind of a surprise,
Mhm.
but they developed this culture for years. So on the other side,
Exactly.
it wasn't a surprise. Um, yeah, so not really a surprise. But talking about German players, one name that comes to my mind is Kostya Mushidi, who's playing for NBC in Weissenfels.
Well,
Um,
I mean, he's been hyped for a while. He's not a surprise.
no. He's been hyped. Yeah, the hype was too much, I would say.
Right.
He would
Exactly.
say as well. Um,
Exactly.
that's what I wanted to say, because sometimes it's not so good if people get hyped early that much. So I guess it would be cool if we would get more surprises in the future. But he found his way back now at Weissenfels
Yeah, he
last
did.
season. Um, Today, DBB announced that he's playing in the next national team games as well. So yeah, great example for a great comeback.
I've got a question from where did it go? Where's the question? Oh yeah, from Flarpy. He asked, "Do young German players dream of playing in America one day?" I would say, not really, not anymore. I don't think. Of course, everybody wants to play NBA, but I think the structure here in Germany is such that, especially nowadays, they're not looking to go overseas to America as much as in the past. Maybe a little bit more to college, but Even that I think is slowed down a bit. What do you think?
Yeah, that's true. It slowed down because like when I was younger, um, everybody dreamed of playing in the NBA someday or going to college. I guess now that you get more opportunities over here in Europe, not just Germany, like you can see it on Andi Obst. He went to Spain first, then to Germany. Or now Justus Hollatz, he's going to Spain next year as well. You get more opportunities here in Germany and in Europe, but I think still it's not the dream of young players to play at the national team one day. In soccer, it is like that. Like young players want to play at the national team. That's
Right.
their biggest dream, or play for Bayern Munich. But I guess in Germany, still a lot of young players have this goal. I want to play at the NBA. I want to at least play there, not being an all-star or winning a championship, but just like that I can say I played in the best league on this planet. I talked
Right.
to Nelson Weidemann from Chemnitz, who played a really good season,
Yeah.
kind of a breakout season this year for Chemnitz.
I would
And
say he would be a surprise. Sorry.
yes, he would be surprised this year. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think most people didn't thought that he would perform this well this season. But he said also, I still have this dream. I want to be part of the NBA, even if it's just for like 2 months or something like that. I want to do everything to play in this league. And I think a lot of young German players still have this dream, and as well as going to college. That's like a life. It's not about sports so much. That's just
Thank
about
you.
the
Thank
life.
you.
Yeah, because I think like if you want to develop yourself the best way possible, you don't need to go to college nowadays as a
Right.
German talent.
Right.
But they want to live that life, I guess.
Right. And that's what I tell all the youth players that I've ever coached. If they had some kind of ambitions to go over to America to play, I tell them all the time, hey, do it, but don't do it so much for the basketball. Do it for the life experience of living somewhere and playing basketball on a different level. But the lifestyle, the connections that you can make while you're over there are priceless. And that's more the reason I think players should go overseas from Germany to America to go to college than the actual basketball. Because if you're good enough, NBA scouts will see you over here. So it's not that it's totally impossible for you to get drafted or something like that. So but more for the lifestyle, the fun, the experience, the school, just to get away from home, live on yourself, become independent. I think those are more the reasons than the actual basketball these days.
Yeah, I mean that's okay as well. I mean, I
Yeah,
think I don't know. I haven't been to a college, but I think if you're a good basketball player, the college life can be fun. So
yeah. So coaching is another area. I think the Bundesliga has done a really excellent job in the last seasons, especially. Um, for me, as a former player and observer of basketball, lover of basketball in general, uh, it seemed for me for a while that the Bundesliga was recycling coaches. Coaches were getting the same jobs. They were getting fired from one place, then going to another place, maybe a little step down, and it was kind of stale. It was kind of old. You were seeing the same coaches at different places. But I think the last 2, 3, maybe 4 years, and especially the GMs have done a really good job of finding talent that's maybe outside of Germans, um, German coaches especially. And I think at the beginning of the season, correct me if I'm wrong, at the beginning of the season, there was only Sebastian in Krausheim and Dennis in Würzburg were the
hmm
only two German coaches at the start. Then uh, who came
Ingo
who
Freier
came
came in Oldenburg.
Ingo came later,
Mhm.
but that was it really, right?
That was it. Yeah.
So it's that change in philosophies maybe with coaching has come to the expense of German coaches, it seems like. Although I would say, I mean, I have my A license as well. The coaching system here in Germany is excellent. How they develop coaches and especially youth coaches nowadays is really top notch. But it seems like there's some really good foreign coaches that have come here and established themselves, and that to the expense of German coaches. What do you think?
I don't really have an answer to the question why German coaches don't get a real shot in BBL, but it's like we have 18 jobs, and just as I said, it's not about where you're from, it's how you perform as a
Yeah,
coach as well. I would
yeah,
have said that the coaching system needs to be more more focused on the coaching system, but you said it's excellent. So I'm wondering, maybe it needs to be more attractive to be a coach, because in BBL it is attractive, talking about finances. But I guess in Pro A or Pro B, it's not that attractive to be a full-time coach.
Right.
So you don't have these, the gap is too high, I guess, because young German coaches, I don't know, they're 20 or something like that, and they need to decide being a coach or, I don't know, working at a normal job. And it's just not attractive enough financially to be a coach and to try this. I think a lot of people don't have, or coaches don't have the courage to try it, which is understandable because they want to make a living and they don't know if they get a job later. So I guess here again, finance is the key, and building maybe other habits, trusting more in German coaches, giving them opportunities. But then they really need to use these opportunities. I mean, a pretty bad example is Thomas Pech, who was an Alba assistant coach for years, excellent coach.
Yeah.
But then he got fired at his 2 head coach jobs in Bonn and Fechter, I guess in 1.5 years or 2 years. And now he's an assistant coach again at Alba. So German coaches need to use this opportunity if they get them. And I guess managers need to trust German coaches still more, because I guess this would maybe transform to German players as well, because I don't know if it's true, but maybe German coaches will develop German players a little bit more than foreign coaches. Maybe, I don't know what your experiences are, but that's one thesis of mine.
Could be. Now I want to talk a little bit about the documentaries that you've done. Like I said, about the team that was in the first regio. Can you explain to the viewers a little bit about that particular documentary, because I thought it was fabulous, and explain what the premise was and also how you came to producing that documentary.
It's funny because I played against this team back when I was playing regularly every weekend at the lowest league, I guess, in Germany, and it's just 4 or 5 years ago. So they played in the lowest league, and then they move up. They had the big sponsor who's putting in a lot of money and who said, "Okay, I'm wanting to establish professional basketball over here in this really small town. I don't know, 3,000, 4,000 residents." In the east of Germany, and it's like 5 minutes away from my hometown, Magdeburg. So I knew the story, and I knew that it's a great story because the club wants to move up, but everybody hates the club because they get the money, and you know how it is in the first regio. There are some American professionals, some professionals from Eastern Europe, but the other ones are just German guys. Basketball is their hobby. They don't live from playing basketball. So you have this league, this semi-professional league, and then you have this club with really professional guys, with players who played Pro A, like Bill Borekambi, Jordan Talbot. And then they come to small gyms in the first Regionalliga. Everybody wants to beat them, and they need to win. And they're built to win, which was the title at the end as well.
Right.
And it was just a great story. So we said, okay, let's do it. We need to tell the story. At the end, we followed them for the whole season, and then we published 5 episodes. At the YouTube channel of the ARD Sportschau. You can look it up, people, if you want to. And it became a great success. And we didn't really thought that it would be such a big success because, first of all, basketball in Germany. Okay, we talked about it already. Right. And then it's really a small town in east of Germany. But I guess maybe that was one point that it was so successful because we told the stories of for example, Jordan Talbot, American player, being in Wolmirstedt, probably being one of the few black people in Wolmirstedt. That's another part, an interesting part and the hard part for him as well.
That was the best part for me.
Yeah, because it was not about basketball, to be honest. The documentary just was about the people, and basketball was like the key maybe to tell the story. Yeah, so that was the idea, and became a success.
Is it hard as a journalist we've talked about basketball being not the biggest draw. Is it hard as a journalist to go to your boss and pitch to do a story like that?
I'm fortunate to have a really, really nice boss at MDR. Shout out to Frank if he's looking. But yeah, it is hard, and I have to say, I didn't get free time 1 year to do this project. I had to do it besides all of my other work,
Wow.
because in Germany people don't say, "Oh, you want to do a basketball documentary about the first regional team? Okay, go 1 year. You don't have to do anything else." So it was a lot of work. I basically dedicated 1 year of my life to this project, but just because I loved the idea, I loved the game, and yes, it's hard. It's hard to convince people doing basketball stuff. But I'm fortunate that I'm one of the guys who can do basketball stuff for a living.
Now I want to go a little bit into Andi Obst. So I've got a great Andi Obst story. For those of
Okay.
you that don't know, Andi Obst is a German player. He plays on the national team. He plays with Bayern Munich in the EuroLeague. He's a fabulous shooter. And for me, he's a typical guy for Bayern Munich. Now, if I in soccer, you would say he's a dude. He's a type, kind of like, old FC Bayern soccer players like the Tiger. What was his name? The soccer player, the Tiger.
Stefan Effenberg.
Stefan Effenberg, or other big time players for FC Bayern that were just guys, that he's just a dude, a dude that you kind of like, and that's how I see Andi Obst in that form at FC Bayern basketball. And so I played against him when I was coaching in Bayreuth. I think Leon was on that team as well. Leon Kratzer was on that team as well. We played against Andy's team in against their team he was playing in Bamberg's youth system. I can't remember if it was NBBL or JBBL, but that, for those that don't know, NBBL is under 19, JBBL is under 16, and Germany has a fabulous youth system for their youth players. So it's very professional. But Andy, I used to do all kind of scouting reports, and hey, he's a shooter, you can't leave him open. Man, this dude came in our gym and hit us up for like 56 points the first time we played him. For like, I mean, he's what, 15 years old, 16 years old. I'm thinking I'm a hot shit coach. I got a nice plan to stop him because he was their best player. I mean, they had a really good team in Bamberg. I think they even won a title that year, but they were really good. But I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to develop a plan. Bullshit. He hits me up for 56, and I don't know too many young white German players that talk shit in a game, but he did, and I grew to be such a fan watching him give me 56 points that I've followed his career since then, right? And so I really like Andy. He's a good guy. I've talked to him maybe once or twice, and he's a really good guy. So I want to talk a little bit about the documentary you did around him, because I haven't seen it, but I can imagine that was pretty cool to make. How did that come about? I mean, I know he's from your same state, so you kind of identify with him as well. But how did that come about?
First of all, you need to watch the documentary.
I
You
will.
need to promise.
I promise.
Actually, I followed his way since he was 14, I guess. I visited him in Bamberg back in the day. We didn't know before, but my boss at that time said, "Oh, he's a great player, great youth player from Sachsen-Anhalt. Go check him out." And after I come back, I said to my boss, "Okay, he's going to make it," because he was so
He has something.
focused.
Yeah.
He has
Yeah.
something. He was so focused at such a young age. He really knew what he wanted.
Yeah.
Step by step. No big dreams from MBA or something like that. I remember back at that time, he had a poster in his room from Diamantidis from Panathinaikos.
That's
And I thought,
unusual for a German player.
that's unusual for a 14-year-old German player like Diamantidis. And he said, yeah, he's playing great defense. He's a great shooter. He's like my role model. I want to play EuroLeague one day. He didn't say I want to play NBA like 99% of the other young German players at that time. So I said, okay, he has something, just like you said, focus, confidence, and
Yeah.
most important thing, which was the most important thing in the documentary as well, because actually, to be honest, Andi knows that to make a documentary just with Andi would be pretty boring because he's not like very outgoing, let's say it like that. Maybe on the court, but off the court he's pretty quiet. So, but his family always got his back, and his family, his Opa, what's Opa? Grandfather was the star of the documentary. I mean, I didn't want to spoil, but he cried like 2 or 3 times because he was so proud of Andi, and it was really great to see what the family can play for a big role as his development, because they were everywhere. They were in Spain. We visited Andi in Spain as well for some days back when they were playing against Real Madrid, and he scored like, I don't know, 20 points or something, and we were like, yes, we picked one game to come to Spain, and he's scoring 20 points. Awesome for the documentary. Yeah, that's my story with Andi, and it's really cool, and it means something to follow his journey for such a long time, for 15 years now, 10 years now. It's really cool to see him perform, just as I said, like yesterday. 11 points, I guess, 3 from 4 from downtown, playing a big role in the BBA semifinals, and I'm pretty sure his journey isn't over. So there's a lot more to come. He's on 23, I guess, or 24. So there's a lot more to come for him.
What is easier for you as a journalist? You do documentaries, you do print work as well. What comes easier for you personally as a journalist, print or visual?
Print is easier. That's print is easier.
It's for sure less time consuming.
Yeah, no, I just started writing. When I was like a teenager, I always said I want to write. I didn't want to do documentaries. I didn't want to do a podcast. I always wanted to write about sports, about basketball. So that's what I learned, and I guess that's what I can do best. And that's where I came from. So it's easier for me, but more challenging and more fun, at least after all these years, is doing visuals, doing documentaries, or doing podcasts now. Because I didn't achieve everything in writing, but I wrote about basically everything already. But I didn't do a documentary about everything already, or a podcast or something like that. So more challenging and more fun is stuff like that.
Good that you spoke about your podcast, because I know you do a podcast called Ostball. For those of you that don't know German, Ostball means East Ball. And now, so we're going to get a little bit political. As everyone should know, Germany was split in two for many years until 1990, and there are still noticeable differences between East Germany and West Germany. I can say firsthand, I lived in Jena for 3 years, which is in the east of Germany, and it was a lot different than I expected. I thought I was going to be faced with racism every day, but I wasn't. But I think that has another reason, but I won't get into that. And your podcast, Ostball, tell me the topics that you want to touch on when you're doing your podcast, and why is it so important to have the title Ostball, for example?
Actually, it is not important at all. And to be honest, I didn't want to call it Ostball. I actually wanted to do a podcast about basketball in Germany. But since I'm working for the MDR, it's like split in Germany, and the MDR is covering everything that happens in the east of Germany. So basically, to say it like that, I was forced to limit it a little bit. But basketball in the east of Germany is upcoming, so I'm not sad about it. You got the Chemnitz Niners. They reached the playoff in the second year in the BBL, which is a great achievement. Great young players. Jonas Richter, Nelson Weidemann, Niklas Wimberg. Great coach. Then you got NBC, who's one of the dinosaurs of the BBL. With great players as well. They change from season to season, but they always manage to find great players, great American players.
On a limited budget.
Yeah, on like the lowest budget, I guess, in the BBL, most of the seasons. Then you got Rostock, which is a great story as well, because in like, I don't know, 6, 7, maybe 8 years, they managed to move up from first Regio as well to BBL now. Then you get Jena. I'm pretty sure they will move up in the next couple of years as well. That's a big goal. So basketball in the east of Germany has a lot to show. But as you said, a little bit political. It doesn't have a big tradition in the east of Germany, which comes from history, because like in the West you had US bases or stuff like that, and people were more open to things that came from the United States than in the east of Germany, where basketball was like not supported from the government. They had this decision in the late 60s, I guess, which sports were supported from the government, and basketball wasn't one of them. So you don't have a lot of basketball tradition, and you don't have a lot of generations who played basketball.
Right.
Like my father played handball, and also soccer, or they were running or stuff like that, but most of the people didn't play soccer. That changed maybe a little bit in the last 10, 20, 30 years, but you don't have the same history like in the west of Germany, and that's why
Exactly.
it still is a little bit different.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think basketball can do to change that? I mean, of course, like you spoke on Chemnitz, you spoke on, of course, success drives these kind of things. So you've got Chemnitz, you've got Jena, you've got some really actually quality teams either in the first league, the Pro A, the second league, or the Pro B. So you've got some teams that are out there, but I guess it just takes time. Like you said, your father played handball, you played handball. My father played basketball. I played basketball. So maybe now we won't see the fruit from the seeds that are being planted now in the eastern part of Germany until many years, right? And that's kind of weird, but I guess you have to start somewhere, right?
You have to start somewhere, and you have to show what basketball stands for. What I just said at the beginning, I think basketball stands for certain values, and kind of like shows the world, or shows the Europe, or whatever you want to call it, how it should be. Like, it doesn't matter where you're from. Like, for example, basketball in Wolmirstedt brings the world to Wolmirstedt. Players from England, from Europe, from the United States, different skin colors, doesn't matter. Brings the world to a small city in the east. And I guess basketball should tell that more, should put that more in front, like that's a sport where values mean something, compared to soccer, where it isn't like that anymore, at least
Right.
in most parts, or at the big parts, maybe at the amateur level, but not in the professional soccer game. So basketball should be more open about what it stands for, I guess. Communicate it more.
I think what you do is so important. I said this before that you're showing a lot of stuff that's off the court, right? So I think on Monday I'm gonna have to give your boss a call and say, hey, you got to get this guy some cash so he can do some more documentaries and show another side of basketball to help basketball grow. So
Do it.
DM me
You're
his
welcome.
number, DM me his number, and I'll hit him up next week. Okay, so now I've got a surprise for you, man. I figured that since that's the end of the normal questions, right? So
Okay.
I figured that since you're doing your one of your first interviews in English, I would meet you halfway. I've got about 6 questions left, and we're going to do them in German.
Oh,
Okay?
nice. Oh,
So
nice.
I'm sorry for those of you in America. I have no undertitles down here to tell you what we're going to talk about. We're going to do it all in German. I'll translate a little bit as we go along. But I figure I have to do something for my guy who's doing his first interview in German and make him feel at home. So from now on, we're talking just German, okay? If you don't
But
understand,
one thing again.
okay,
Actually, even if I'm making a little bit fun of it, and my English is not so good,
it's
but I think
good, man.
but I guess it's great that English is like the basketball language. That's
Yeah,
one
it
part as
is.
well, because everybody can communicate with each other, and
Exactly.
that's again how it should be. So, yeah.
Okay, so ab jetzt wird Deutsch gesprochen. So,
Sehr
beende
gut.
diesen Satz. Mein All-Time Lieblings mein All-Time Lieblings BBL-Spieler ist.
It's hard. Achso, oh, das ist schwer. um, let's say, no, it's hard to speak German again, man. Julius Jenkins.
Okay, mine ist wird so immer sein Wendell Alexis, Iceman.
Oh, I just talked to Wendell Alexis 2 days ago for a big
Echt?
magazine. Yeah.
He,
Sehr gutes
he's
Gespräch.
he's my guy. So for those of you that are watching from America, I asked him who his all-time favorite BBL Bundesliga player is, and he said Julius Jenkins, who was an incredible player hier for many years. Ja. Also, nächste Frage. Wer gewinnt den Titel?
Alba Berlin, for sure.
Glaubst du?
Yes, I have to say, I switch in English for the people. It's fine. I have to say I'm a big Alba fan. I don't know if you can be a fan as a journalist, but I was a fan before I was a journalist, so it's allowed, I guess. So I have to stuck with Alba, and they got a lot of time to rest, and Bayern had to play 5 games, so
yeah,
I'm pretty sure
that's gonna hurt. That's definitely gonna hurt.
Yeah.
Was macht einen guten Sportsjournalist aus?
The ability to tell good stories, I guess.
Okay, so I have to say what the question was. The question was, what makes a good journalist, a good sports journalist?
Yeah. And
so you said the ability to what?
To tell good stories and to kind of like, I don't know, get the trust of the people to let you tell their stories, and to really show honest interest in the people, and really be interested, not just show it, but it needs to be real. I guess that's for me a good journalist, and to be as objective as possible, maybe. But to be honest, I'm not so objective in basketball because.
I was just gonna say you're not. You just said that you're an Alba fan and you were before, and you're picking them to win the title. Man, you are not objective at all, man.
Okay, that's fine. But in basketball, that's fine for me.
Okay. Fußball Weltmeisterschaft Finale, Euroleague Basketball Finale, oder NBA Final Game 7. Wo gehst du hin as journalist?
Well, I was at the European Championship final as a journalist in soccer already, so I can cross that off my list. NBA finals, just because I've never been to an NBA game, and I think in the United States, sports journalism is a whole different level than in Germany, and in NBA finals Game 7, again a whole another level. So really would like to experience that.
Okay. Beste Interview from ein BBL-Spieler. Was du hattest.
I don't know. Was ich hatte. Speaking to
that's hard.
That's hard, but no, it's not hard. Speaking to Sergio Carush from NBC some months ago, I guess, for my podcast, Ostball, about his cancer diagnosis some years ago, and how he fought it, and how he came back, and all the struggles he had to go through, and he spoke so open about it. People can listen to the podcast because it's in English, like 50%. We didn't translate his words, so yeah, that was really, really emotional, and I'm pretty thankful he opened up that much.
That's dope. Okay, letzte Frage. Lieblings-NBA-Spieler. Current or past? Favorite NBA player? Current or past, doesn't matter.
Actually, as I was a kid, it was like Gilbert Arenas, because
I don't get that answer very often, ever.
Yeah, because I saw this. I don't know if you remember, he had this Adidas clip, Agent Zero.
Yeah.
And this just catched me. And afterwards, I told my mom, "Hey, I need a jersey from Gilbert Arenas." And he was like, "Who?" And she was like, "Who?" Oh, okay. So I ordered it online, and I wore it like, I don't know, the whole school time, like every day, I guess. And people called me Agent Zero. So even if I played a whole different style of play, but that was kind of my favorite player back then, and still, I guess. I mean, he's not playing, but he's doing a great podcast as well. Very entertaining.
Yeah, he does a really good one. Yeah. So it's funny that you actually spoke about that commercial, that Adidas commercial, because maybe that's an area where America is just so much ahead of Europe, or let's say Germany in general, where they market their players better, and in turn, you're a German kid, you see a commercial for a shoe with this guy, he's got a totally great personality in this sneaker commercial, and then that draws you in. Maybe that's an area where the BBL can say, okay, that's how we can maybe market our players better. But for that, you have to give them longer term contracts and keep them in the club for a longer period of time, which is, yeah, it's difficult. But I think that maybe is another thing. But just based on what you just said, a German white kid sees Agent Zero and says, "That's my guy," and is
Yeah,
still your guy. You know,
yeah,
so
yeah.
maybe that's what we need for little German kids right living here right now to see. I don't know, Andi Obst in a commercial and say, "Hey, that's my guy. He's going to be my guy for life." I would
And the
hope that.
topic again, I guess, is storytelling because I
Yeah,
remember pretty good. He was sitting on the bench and talking about why he wears number zero because nobody gave him a shot.
everybody passed him up, right?
Everybody pays him up, and it reminds him on the hard times. And this just catch me the story.
So, man, that's all I got for you, man. I appreciate you coming on the show. Your English is better than you probably think it is, and I appreciate I appreciate you brushing up on it for me. But you did a great job. No jokes about that. And I really appreciate. We follow each other, we hit each other up, and support each other as well. And I really appreciate that as well. So keep doing what you're doing, man. I love the stuff that you're putting out there, and it'll be guys like you that'll help build European basketball, German basketball by your storytelling and things like that, and influence those who make the decisions to invest a little bit more money, time, screen time, which also has to do with money, and invest in basketball here in Germany. And I'll be glad when it happens, and I'm sure you'll be one of the guys in the forefront that's leading the way. So I look forward to seeing what you put out over the next years, and I really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for your words, and thanks for your work as well. Because I think that's a whole nother topic. We can talk about it
Yeah.
some other day. But your work is pretty damn important too. Because I saw some American players coming here in first Regionalliga, second Regionalliga. They don't know what they got themselves into. They don't know what to do. They're all by themselves. They have a lot of
Yeah.
questions, and nobody can help them. So I think it's really important what you do as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So get on out of here, man. I've taken up enough of your time. Let me say goodbye to my teammates watching. I appreciate you. I'll be in touch with you anyway. So
Bye bye.
bye. So, teammates, thank you very much for watching, for tuning in. That was a great episode. I was really happy to have him on as the first journalist that I had on the Eurostep, and he delivered, and that's what I was looking for. So, as usual, please follow this channel, follow this information thing that I try to get out there to the world. Share it to someone who might need it. I try to balance doing things for free and doing, as we spoke a little bit about my consulting, my advising to pro players and those who want to be pros. I try to balance between free things and advice and the paid services that I have. So if you know anybody that needs some information and needs some help, that needs to know a little bit more about what's going on overseas, tell them to follow my page. They don't have to book me as a service. They can just follow my page and see what I put out there. And I hope that I can influence and help those of you that are really looking for a chance to play overseas and to gain more information. That's what I do. That's what I'm all about. And as far as Daniel's concerned, I'll make sure when I put the video from the interview on YouTube tomorrow that I'll include the links, especially to Ostball, where you can listen and watch, and some of the other stuff that he has going on, and give him some support, because I really like the things that he's putting out there, and he's looking behind the curtain of just the basketball stuff, and I think that's really important, as he said as well. Yeah, so that's it for tonight. I hope everybody is safe. I hope everybody is doing well, and we'll see each other next week. Oh wait, am I on next week? I've got something going on next week. Oh, no, I think I'm not on next week, but it'll be the week after. But you'll see if you follow me what I'm doing, why I'm not doing a show next week. And it's going to be pretty interesting, pretty cool thing that's going on. So, yep, that's it for me. Have a good night, everyone. And thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in wherever you are in the world. Hope head out.